no election in 2027, and what the late Cyrus Jirongo told Martha Karua very, very shortly before his death. Now, through the years, I've discovered the value of getting down to the bare bones of controversial topics and discussions. And one of the things it does is that it clears the head and allows you to focus on the really important issues, the issues that matter. And so in this spirit, let me ask a very simple question. Is the government of William Samoei Ruto capable of ensuring that there will be no elections in 2027? What do you think the answer to that question is? Actually, it is yes. Of course, the government is capable of ensuring that there will be no election in the year 2027. In other words, the truth is, Ruto is capable of extending his presidency. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, this is the real reason behind this talk of a referendum before the next scheduled general elections. Of course, some Kenyans cannot see through the crafty tactic of starting off by saying that they can be held at the same time, in the same ballot. And then later complications arise so that the two are separated, and of course the referendum has to come first before the general election. And meanwhile, who is still president? Please don't allow yourself into that situation where you cannot see that. And then also on my show today, Martha Karua this week told us what Cyrus Jirongo told her very, very shortly before his mysterious alleged car crash in Naivasha. A very warm welcome to my super hot show today. Twende kazi. Has a president's term in the country called Kenya been extended on technicalities in the past? Do you know the answer to that question? The answer is yes. Oh yes, believe it or not. After the disputed elections of 2007, the next presidential elections were scheduled for the year 2012. Not later than December. But when were they held? They were actually held in March 2013. And for those of us who were analyzing politics then, because the Kumekucha brand was very active at that time in the blog, we knew that there were people pushing Kibaki to extend his term even further, maybe even for 2 years. Mercifully, that did not happen. And in my opinion, Kenya was saved more because of Kibaki's then failing health than listening to reason when it came to the presidential advisors. You see, it is not too difficult to get a very good excuse to extend your term as a president. I'm talking about what happens in the country called Kenya. And of course, I'm aware of what our constitution says. However, you and I know that the Constitution is not always followed, especially by government. They pick what is convenient and they ignore what is not convenient. A case in point, the gender rule. What happened to that one? Our Constitution is very clear on that. And so please don't give me that one of, Chris, our Constitution. Don't give me that one. Please, let's talk about reality on the ground. By the way, it is very easy to see the president's advisors finally realizing the position they have put themselves into. Because they're politicians, but they have been behaving like something else, like they will not need the votes of the people of Kenya and people from various tribes and communities in Kenya in the future. That is how they've been behaving. But now the chickens are coming home to roost. So it is easy to see a situation where these people have realized, hey, we cannot realistically go into the 2027 elections, especially the presidential elections, when we are talking about two-term. And therefore, a neat solution is to find an excuse not to have elections in 2027. And so you create a constitutional crisis. It is not there, you just create it, and everything else falls neatly into place. However, having said all that, vitu kwa ground ziko tofauti sana. I wonder whether those who are close to Ruto see the rising temperatures in the country, and especially the venom against this administration. I wonder if they're able to see that. Maybe not, because clearly they don't seem to have realized what the effect of the fake poll they organized the other day, telling Kenyans that the popularity of the broad-based government has doubled. They did not realize, they did not see the effect of that. And therefore they went full speed ahead and did it anyway. I can assure you, the reaction amongst Kenyans, people are already angry. And therefore, instead of cooling them, you do something to raise temperatures even higher. Because that is exactly what that fake poll did. Maybe what they need to do is to look for Moi advisors, the second president of Kenya. Because Moi faced a situation very, very similar, in fact, a photocopy of the situation in Kenya today. And the way he handled it, you have to admire that ruthless dictator. The way he handled it was, I can't find the words to use to describe that. But let me give you the story. As the year 1991 came to a close, 1992, the next year, was a general election year. Things in Kenya were getting very hot. It was at the height of the fight for multi-party democracy. And just like today, somebody had been murdered under very mysterious circumstances, and most Kenyans believed that the state was involved. Just like today. Former Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. John Robert Ouko, had passed on in February 1990. And so as 1991 came to a close, Moi knew that he had to do something. Do something against what? Well, do something against the rising anger of the public towards him and his government. And the man who used to call himself a professor of politics made two moves that changed everything, and ensured his survival for another 2 terms as president. Number one, on 27th November 1991, the Daily Nation produced a special print edition, that sold a record number of copies that has never been matched to this day, and have good reason to believe will never be matched. What was the headline? Biwott arrested. Now pay careful attention to the fact that Moi addressed directly one of the major sources of Kenyans' anger towards his government, Bwana Nicholas Kipiator Biwott. It was widely believed at the time by most Kenyans that Biwott was directly responsible for the murder of Ouko. That single move alone shocked Kenyans so much that they immediately forgot to be angry. They got excited. We got arrested? No. How? This is very good. And Oyugi also arrested. The powerful security CS. This is too good to be true. Actually, the reality was, Biwott and Oyugi had been persuaded by the president to take luxury accommodation at the GSU headquarters for a few days. Nobody thought to ask the government which police station was holding these heavyweights. After a week or so, the two were released, and we had a statement from the CID, these days the DCI, telling Kenyans that they had found no evidence to keep on holding the two, but they were continuing with their investigations. End of story. Move number 2. President Moi shocked the nation and even many, many powerful Kanu people by suddenly waking up one morning and saying that the country was going to revert back into multi-party democracy. Again, this is precisely what Kenyans were fighting for. Now President Moi had handed it over to them just like that. There was no reason to keep on being angry. And super fascinating, shortly after that, Kenyans were heard saying, actually Moi is not that bad. The problem is the people around him. Older Kenyans will remember that very clearly. Game short. Moi bought himself time. Moi bought himself 2 more presidential terms, rigged of course, and effectively remained president of Kenya for another 10 years. Folks, that is the difference between a careful dictator and a careless dictator. Because fast forward to the present, the current UDA regime does not seem to care that people are angry. And we know this why? Because they keep on provoking the people every other day with new things za kuchokoza. Every other day we see that. Telling us very clearly they don't care. Umekasirika? So what? They don't care. Now, what did Moi see that pushed him into making these 2 drastic and, in my opinion, desperate moves? What did Moi fear in the anger of the people? Because in case you didn't know, shortly before Section 2A of the old Constitution was removed, Moi had sworn to Kenyans, multi-party democracy in Kenya over my dead body. Moi had gone on record saying precisely that. So, what did Moi fear? After all, when citizens are angry, kwani watadu? Eish. Now, I don't want to force my opinion on you. So, all I'm going to do is to remind you of what has happened elsewhere. Places like Nepal, Bangladesh, etc., etc. What has happened in those countries and what caused it? Well, the international media and the media in those countries made it very clear to us that the reason why leaders in those countries had to take off, escape, flee at short notice was because of something called the rising anger of the public. I believe that is what Moi saw and what Moi dealt with in the 90s. But then in Kenya, that one is not important. And after all, those countries are not Kenya. Ish. What? Now, I would like to play you a few very brief audio clips, of Kenyans talking and Kenyans expressing themselves. You know, sometimes I can talk and talk and talk here until some people can start believing Chris Kumekucha is making this up. Yeah. So, as a wake-up call for some of us, a few of us, I want to play these short audio clips. Please listen in and come to your own conclusion.
Yeah, on 12th of December, that was Jamhuri Day, Cyrus called me at around 12:34, and we spoke for about 3 minutes and 45 seconds. He called again at around 2:30 and asked me where I was. And I told him that I was in the supermarket. He said he wanted to see me, so he drove to where I was. When he reached the parking, he called me, told me he was outside. So I just put the trolley aside and went to see him. I sat in the car, we had a conversation, and then he left. He told me he was going back to the office to build his castles. He told me I'm going to dream and build my castles in the office, but later I'll be going to see the Honorable Speaker, Wetangula. Later, he FaceTime called me at around 4, told me he never even went to the office, that he had gone to the house and was just feeling tired and went to sleep. So when he called, he was just on the chair. He told me he had been dozing on the chair for about 2 hours. And that was the last time I spoke to Cyrus. And the time he came to the parking at the supermarket was the last time I saw him. I had a restless night that night. I didn't sleep well. And the feelings I had were really strong. So I looked at my watch, at my phone, and it was exactly midnight. I could not really decode what I was feeling. So I took a screenshot of my phone. It is the picture on my tribute. It was exactly midnight. And I could hear voices saying, "It is over. It is over." I couldn't make sense of it. At 3 o'clock, 3:20, when I got the call, I was still awake, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. I saw his call, but when I picked, it was not him. Someone asked me if I knew the owner of the phone, and I told them, yeah, that's my husband. I asked where he is, if I could speak to him. But they told me that he's been involved in an accident, and he was unconscious but was being attended to by the doctors.
Mimi nimeweza kutazama mwili wake, sijaona alama kwa mwili. Nimeangalia mwili vizuri sana. Vile tu niliangalia huko Lee Funeral pia nimeangalia leo, haina alama. Kwa hivyo ni vile tuliambiwa na pathologist Johnson Odor kwamba alikufa kwa sababu ya internal injuries. But swali kubwa bado ni kwamba gari ya Mercedes inaweza siagwa hivyo na utoke hata bila cut, bila hata alama tu, hata damu itoke tu katone. Haiwezekani kabisa, hiyo haiwezekani. Gari ya Mercedes isiagwe hivyo alafu upatikane kwamba hauna alama kwa mwili. Hatumekufa kwa sababu ya majeraha ya ndani, hakuna alama nje. Hiyo ni ngumu sana. Tena haiwezekani gari ya Mercedes isiagwe hivyo na ile kitu imesiaga hiyo gari ati ni bumper ya basi. Basi haijaumia mbele, basi bado iko intact mbele, iko na windscreen, iko na mataa, ati bumper ndio imesiaga Mercedes Benz. Haiwezekani hiyo kabisa. Haiwezekani kabisa.
Sisemi kitu. I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, shortly before the very suspicious road crash in Naivasha that ended Cyrus Jirongo, Bwana Jirongo had told his close political ally, Martha Karua, a few things that are now very relevant. He had said he was very scared for his life, and he had already started making arrangements to beef up his personal security. Now, imagine that you are a judge in a court of law, and then this information was delivered in your court. What would your reaction be? Well, if it was me, and I had doubted a few conspiracy theories here and there, a few stories here and there, this one would have made me sit up and pay closer attention and indeed start looking for clues and evidence to prove that foul play was involved. Isn't that obvious? As if all the backlash and anger against this government was not enough. Now we have something else. Anger against this government because of the Cyrus Jirongo Manenos. There is too much anti-Ruto noise in the air. And you know, this one that involves a funeral is very emotional for most Kenyans. Extremely emotional. Even the recent service, where family members and close friends talked, was a very emotional affair. What are we doing here? We're not only raising anger, but we're also pushing it up further, higher, through emotions. And you know, Kenyans worship the dead. What do you expect will happen? You tell me. Yeah. Now, very quickly before I go, we just have a few days before this season of gifting Kumekucha Chris comes to an end. And as I said earlier, I'm so grateful for the huge effort many of you have put in. God bless you mightily. God replenish your storehouse from whence you fetched your gift. Amen. And I just thought it may also be a good idea to come up with today's offer, which will give more and more of us out there the opportunity of getting the golden key. Now you can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 1,499. If your donation gift is at least that amount, for a very short time, I'll be able to give you the golden key. What? Please rush and take full advantage of this crazy, crazy offer. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.